And
we can just join.
We're making a movie.
Movies. I'm going to shut this door because this is kind of weird. Perfect. All right. We're rolling. Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Restoring Human podcast, where we believe humans were designed to flourish. Unfortunately, many modern conveniences work against our thriving, but through intentional lifestyle decisions, we can return to an optimal state of health. I am Jarek Bakken, today here with, as always, Dr. Alex Arguello, but a special guest, Bonnie Schroeder.
Hi.
Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Bonnie is maybe surprising to you, maybe not. Definitely the strongest person in the camera right now.
Thank you.
No doubt.
No doubt. Relative and absolute, probably. And that's what we want to talk to her about a little bit. Yeah. So, what do you do? I guess let's start there.
I am a competitive powerlifter. I train out of Summit Training Center in Bettendorf, Iowa, and I have been working and training there for about 4 years now.
Okay. And specifically powerlifting.
Okay, because you guys are CrossFit guys.
We can.
So I get to
cover
educate you guys.
We'll cover our bases
powerlifting.
here.
So for those of you maybe that aren't as familiar with powerlifting, it is a strength-based sport based around 3 lifts, so squat, bench, and deadlift. Those are the 3 lifts that you compete in. Meets go in that order. You squat first, then you bench, then you deadlift. You get 3 attempts at each lift, and then you are scored a total at the end. So that's how the meets work. Yep.
So wildly different from CrossFitters who lift. Not only do you not get infinite chances to hit a lift,
right.
You also
get 9 attempts. That's it.
You also have some more rigid movement standards
as
well.
Yes, absolutely. And I compete in the USAPL, and so that's United States Powerlifting. That is really probably, most would argue the strictest as far as powerlifting federations. There's many. The main 2 are USPA and then USAPL. So USAPL, they are looking for depth in your squat. They are looking to make sure you listen to all the commands. There's commands for every lift. They're making sure your feet don't raise, your butt don't raise, your head doesn't raise in the bench press, and there can be no, hitching, ramping, or grip slipping in like a deadlift.
Sure.
So there are pretty strict standards.
Like you already established, we're primarily CrossFitters, and CrossFit as a sport is uniquely complementary, equally, not complementary, that's not the word I'm looking for, but like men and women, it's like the exact same thing.
Sure.
And it sounds...
No. It's pretty fair across everything.
That's cool.
It's nice because another thing, that's... Well, it's different from CrossFit, but there are weight classes. So that's another thing that sets it apart.
Sure.
Is that I compete, in 57-kilo weight class, and I'm only competing with those women, unless it's for like the overall.
I did the conversion for you, American folks. That's 125 pounds.
Yes, 125 and a half pounds. Yes. So I just have to weigh underneath that to compete in that weight class.
Cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So is there like weight cutting that you do, like wrestling or fighting?
There will be a little bit of weight cutting for me this go around. I actually got on a little bit of a bulking phase, so I'm actually above my weight class right now. Okay. I will drop a couple pounds, and mostly so I can be nationally ranked with other federations. So what I mean by that is USAPL is the only one that has a 57-kilo weight class. Everybody else has a 56, so 123. So in order to be compared against all the other gals in the country, I need to be under that weight.
56.
Under
Okay.
56, yes. So otherwise, if I weigh 124, 125, I'm really only able to be equally compared to girls that are...
The same.
Right. Under 57, not under 56. So I will try to compete at under 123 at my next meet.
Dang.
Cool.
Very cool.
So maybe we should get a background.
Yeah.
How this all happened.
Yes. How did it happen? I ran track in high school and college, so that is my main background. I was a sprinter. Running seems very foreign to me now. Can't imagine doing it. I haven't in a while, so don't ask me because I couldn't tell you when. So track background, I was a sprinter in high school and college. After that, I kind of hung out in the bodybuilding world for a while. I never competed in that manner, but I was training that way. That's who I was hanging out with.
Okay.
And I probably trained that way from 22 to 26-ish. And then I did CrossFit for a year, maybe two. Probably just a year at Summit. Yep. I enjoyed it. There were a lot of things I really enjoyed. I still had a little bit of a gas tank from my track days. But there were a lot of things I was really bad at. Like anything that was gymnastic-y at all, I couldn't do. There was no handstand things. There was no muscle-ups. There was no double unders. I have no sense of rhythm. So I was like, well, can't we just deadlift heavy, guys? Like, can't we do something else?
Because were you lifting through high school, like in the track stuff? Or?
We did have a lifting program. It was pretty generic, though, and not really catered to the explosiveness of the sport. So more of just a very generic, basic lifting program. But so, yeah, I've always been doing some form of lifting. I didn't seriously get into powerlifting until I was 27. I was doing CrossFit at the time, and I had a training partner, and she was like, well, I'm going to sign up for a powerlifting meet. I'm like, what is that? What is this powerlifting thing? And so she told me. I thought it sounded interesting, and I did my first one with probably like just a couple months of serious training under my belt. Not a lot. And I did it, and I loved it, and there was really no looking back after that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So now when you say, because he asked you what you do, and you're a competitive power lifter, how frequent is that happening? Are you like doing meets every month? Is this
no.
3 times a year thing? What does that look like?
This year, I really only wanted to compete twice.
Okay.
I will be competing 3 times. So I did the Arnold in March. I did the USAPL Pro American meet. That was the first weekend in March. And I will be doing, I didn't get the total that I wanted from that meet, so that's the reason I'm competing again. So I'm doing regionals in July, and that will be in St. Louis, where I'm moving to. And then I will be competing at Raw Nationals, which is in October in Spokane, Washington.
Cool. Very cool.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. I don't like to do meets too often because it really takes a toll on your body and you mentally. And at this point where I've been doing it a long time, if I'm competing that often, I'm probably not getting a PR at every meet, which is tough. And I like to see that total go up at every meet. So ideally, from here on out, 2 times a year.
Cool. So, okay, you kind of led into this a little bit, but you're drawing a little bit of a line between powerlifting as a sport and maybe like something that you're doing to keep yourself healthy.
Right.
Are you drawing that distinct line in your head? Do you train differently? Do you see things differently in those 2 regards?
It is very much a lifestyle for me, and it's certainly become more of a hobby. I think as far as keeping me healthy, obviously, physically it does a good job. Mentally, sometimes it can be tough. I think strength training in general does wonders for your mental health.
Sure.
But it can be challenging at times to keep things in perspective. And I'm sure people that I am close with and people that I train with, you see it. It's really hard to not compare yourself with your competitors.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, physically, it's amazing. Everyone should be strength training. But mentally, there's definitely a lot of different layers that are involved.
Sure. So I want to go back a little bit now, especially since you mentioned kind of the mental side of any type of physical fitness, I guess.
Sure.
I saw a short little article that you had written kind of talking a little bit about your history. Feel free. This is Brock if he came into the camera. You talked a little bit about your history with fitness prior to finding powerlifting, and even I think at that point probably finding CrossFit, that you ran, and your mindset was like a lot of women, I got to be skinny.
Yeah, thin is cute. It's the only way you can be attractive, right?
Yeah. So
it's sarcasm, ladies and gentlemen.
If it wasn't laid on thick enough.
If you didn't get that.
How have you seen your mindset change from then? How have you seen, like, what has changed since that point? What, maybe even start with, what did that look like, I guess?
Sure. So when I was running all the time, I guess I was probably 10, 15 pounds lighter than I am now.
Currently.
Yeah, yep. Which is significant, for my height and,
Sure.
and natural weight. And that was just it. I was convinced that was what was attractive. That was how I should look. Mm-hmm. And at the time, that was okay because I felt like I did fit that mold. You know what I mean? And then after college, and I wasn't running as much, and I couldn't really stay in sprinting shape on my own. I was bodybuilding and stuff like that because I was kind of like, okay, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. When that collegiate athlete, I was like, oh crap, my collegiate career's over. Now what? So I was training like a bodybuilding manner, like I said, and I'm very lucky that my mental state kind of changed as my body changed.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I'm getting some shoulders. Like, I like that.
Sure.
This is cool. Let's keep it going. So I never really had that thought that, oh, I'm getting too big. I'm getting too bulky. I was very lucky that I was like, okay, I like this. Let's keep it going.
Sure.
Let's see what we can do with this. And I'm naturally pretty lean. If I wasn't lifting, I would just shrink down to nothing. Mm-hmm. So, that's not the starting place that all women come from. But I'm very lucky that I adapted and I liked what I saw.
Sure.
As I was going along.
So what about, was there anything necessarily like trying about any of that period before you kind of found more of a strength training? Like you said, you're naturally just kind of a smaller person, mm-hmm. But that mindset shifted kind of naturally. Was there ever a time where you felt kind of the weight, the pressure to look a certain way, or?
The only time I felt that would definitely not then. If anything, more so now. And not that I feel the pressure, but I see it mm-hmm. with social media. Sure. And that's, I think, just kind of comes with the territory as a female strength athlete. Mm-hmm. You are either not feminine enough, or if you want to be masculine, just go be a dude and don't do your hair, don't do your makeup or anything like that. So, some people just want you to be this way or that way, you know. But at that time, when it was more of a transition for me, I'm pretty lucky. I don't think I felt really much pressure from anyone or any outside sources. I know it's not that easy for everyone or every girl making the transition, to someone who is getting used to a new body, I guess you could say. I would just say have a really good support system, and have a group of people that understand why you're doing it. Sure. And that can be there for you in those more challenging times. But yeah, social media can be a nasty place. But luckily, a lot of those people they don't know what they're talking about and are easy to brush off. They don't know what your total is, or sure. You know what I mean.
So you are also a coach.
Yes.
So have mm-hmm. you had the chance to kind of walk through a similar process with some other people?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of gals come to me and their initial thought is, oh, I want to lose weight. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. I have weight loss clients. That's okay. And then it's interesting to kind of, because I still make them strength train. You're still going to come in and squat. Sure. You're still going to come in and deadlift. You're still going to come in and overhead press, all these things. And it's interesting to see that transition to where it's not so much the weight on the scale that matters anymore, but it's the weight on the bar. Sure. And I love seeing that mental shift, and I really like celebrating that mental shift, because I think that's really important, especially with females, to praise that.
Yeah.
And keep the focus on that.
Sure. Have you noticed with yourself or with clients improvements elsewhere in life because of the kind of mental shift that happens in the gym?
Absolutely. I had one gal, well, she still smoked actually when she came to me, and so she quit that. So that was huge. But I think the number one
on
thing.
her own choosing?
Yeah, I didn't tell her to.
Nice.
I didn't tell her to. I might have strongly suggested it a couple times, but I wasn't like, you need to stop. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But she made that choice for herself, that she wanted to live.
Figure it out.
Yeah, she wanted to live a healthier lifestyle, which is rad. I totally support that. But I think the number one, biggest change that you see is the confidence.
Yeah.
Of course, now these women are confident enough to get under a barbell with 200 pounds on it, whereas they might not have even ever fathomed doing something like that before, which is really cool to see. And you do see that confidence elsewhere, in their lives. Maybe they're posting a flexing picture, or a picture wearing a dress or something that they wouldn't have been in before.
Or a picture at all.
Exactly. Or a picture in their singlet that they were worried about wearing at their first powerlifting meet. You know what I mean? So that's huge, and it's really cool to see, and that stuff makes me really happy, just as stoked as seeing those PRs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
So you work with more people that want to become powerlifters, or more just
I have a
personal
group.
training stuff?
I've got, a couple that are weight loss, a couple that are just strength training for life and being able to do activities of daily living, some older clients, and then I do have a group of athletes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how do these people come to you? How would they know that you're...
Most find me through social media.
Okay.
Or word of mouth.
So you're on social media telling people that you coach, you do strength training
Yes.
coaching.
Yes. Well, I'm
Cool.
not advertising it currently because I'm about to move, but yeah.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is it all local stuff? Do you have any online?
I have a group of people that I work with in person, and then I have a team online of about 30 clients right now that I also write programming for. And those are all powerlifting athletes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that full time for you, or are you doing anything else? Or
I'm just in the gym and my online business.
Cool.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So let's get back to that, but talk about St. Louis.
Yeah.
What's happening there?
Just ready for a fresh start.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to be close to some family and friends down there. My sister and her husband and my nephew just moved down there.
Okay.
And then I'll be possibly working but training at a really cool gym down there as well.
The lab.
Yes. Shout out to the lab.
Justin Thacker
and Chris.
Sounds familiar, but I don't know.
They're good guys. They are excited to have me, so I'm excited to be there.
This is a powerlifting gym?
And weightlifting, and I think they have a CrossFit.
Yeah.
They've got everything.
It's a huge facility.
What's it called? The lab?
The lab.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the lab. It's more of they've got like a big training hall, and they probably have the biggest group of competitive weightlifters, I think, in St. Louis, because there's some other powerlifting gyms, but they do cater to weightlifters as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So are you like joining a team down there?
Yes. Yeah, they do actually have a powerlifting team, which will be nice.
Because do you necessarily have that here?
No.
Okay.
No, there's just a handful of people at Summit that compete.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
That's cool.
So there's team competitions?
You can enter meets as a team if you have enough competitors, and then they do offer like team placing and team prizes and stuff.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep. I'm not sure how many people you need. I think it's like 12 or 16, and then you can be considered a team.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So, checking my notes here. This might be the first time I really
wrote something
really intentionally made some notes.
Have you had any powerlifting guests before?
If you would call Austin that, I mean, he dabbles quite a bit, but yeah, no. Other than Austin, no. What does your kind of life and schedule look like surrounding training and what you're putting in to do this?
Sure. So right now I am about 10 weeks out from my regional meet. So right now in training, my volume's still pretty high. A lot of reps right now, which as a powerlifter, it's tough. It's cardio. So my training days are all broken down by the main lift. So I squat twice a week, bench 3 times a week, and I deadlift once a week.
Okay.
So I have the main movement of that day, some variation on that lift, and then a couple accessory movements at the end. Usually my training sessions end up being around like 2 hours. And then, so yeah, about 10 weeks out, the week before the meet, I'll deload. Everything will be nice and light, and hopefully I have a good meet in July.
So once a day?
Yes, once a day.
6 days a week?
Yes.
Does that count right?
Yes. Yeah.
And only doing that movement?
Yeah.
Every day.
Some days I double up. Some days I might squat and bench or bench and deadlift. If I have to, I try to keep my deadlift days just deadlift. But sometimes, depending on my schedule, I can squat and bench on the same day. I do auto-regulate everything. So
what do you mean by that?
So like some people are like, oh, Monday's my bench day. Wednesday's my squat day. I don't do that. I go based off of everything of how I feel. So if I'm not ready to squat again on Monday because I just deadlifted it on Saturday, I will bench. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not going to do something if my body's not ready for it because I want every session to be a good session.
So was that intuition something that has come more recently, or
it's kind of something that I've learned after doing this for 4 years. I mean, some people are pretty good at listening to their bodies and what they are ready for or not ready for. Others really want to stick to that schedule. I need to bench today because it's my bench day. Whereas I'm like, okay, well, if my upper body is still fried, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't do something, or maybe I should do something else. So that's really come with time and a lot of trial and error with my own programming because I write for myself, which has its own challenges. But you learn what works and what doesn't. And that really works well for me.
So what about the aspects of training that are outside of the gym? What does your diet look like, for example?
I track my macros. I work with Hybrid Nutrition, and I have a coach there. That's Steffi Cohen, and you know them. Okay. Yep. So I work with them. They do my macros. I check in every week with pictures and updated weights and everything like that. They have been really good to me. And before that, I was just eating intuitively, and it was working pretty well for the most part. I really wanted to gain a little bit of weight in this current training cycle, so they've helped me make sure I'm eating enough. So that's been interesting on its own. It's different having someone hold you accountable because I'm really not used to reporting to anyone since I write my own programming. So that's been a lot of fun. I don't, I'm not going out and partying on the weekends, so there's not a lot of alcohol or any consumption like that. But yeah, that's what I do pretty much for diet.
How has that changed since, what does that look like now compared to maybe how you grew up and what you knew from nutrition at that point in life?
I've always been pretty lucky as far as like my metabolism. When I was in college, I could eat anything I wanted, and that was fine because I was running 6 days a week, right? And then you stop being a collegiate athlete, and you're like, oh wait, maybe I can't eat like this anymore. I was 22. I remember very specifically when I had that moment. But I think doing the macros is great because it still allows you to be a little flexible. And any diet that was super, super restrictive, I couldn't do. Any diet that was like, no, you can't have ice cream. You can't. I really, really like that because it lets me be flexible still. Eating intuitively, for the majority of my life has worked pretty well. But it's not for everyone. It's harder for some people than it is for others.
Would you say you have learned a lot from working with hybrid guys and tracking things and just being intuitive is relative to your own understanding?
Exactly.
So do you feel like your understanding has grown since
Yes, definitely. I I actually had an interesting conversation with them the other day because I was talking about, cutting a couple pounds for this meet. And I was like, well, I don't ever want to be hungry, because that sucks. You don't want to go squat heavy when you're hungry. And so they're like, well, we don't ever want you to be hungry either, but hungry is so mental. And then they sat me down and told me all these very interesting thoughts on hunger.
Sure.
And it's really cool to hear those professionals tell you about it, because I don't have a background in nutrition. So it's interesting. They're like, well, I could tell you this and this, and you'd never even feel hungry again. I'm like, well, okay, let's do that, So, yeah, it's really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't think about before. And I personally don't do nutrition for my clients, so I like to send them that way also to Hybrid, because it really is a good program.
So I'm curious, what were some of those things that they told you about hunger?
Well, just the way that metabolisms work. They use the example of, an overweight person obviously doesn't have to eat all the time to survive, but they might feel hungry more often.
Sure.
But they still get that feeling that, oh my God, I need to eat something. And I told them, I was like, but I do need to eat something else. I will starve. So just kind of putting different thoughts like that into my head, things I hadn't thought about before. And then, the opposite of a leaner person trying to gain weight and things like that, the way that metabolisms work and the mental aspect of hunger and how so much of it is mental. And I'm just like, okay, that's a really good point. I guess I'll shut up.
The doctor knows all about that.
The doctor.
So can you tell us what this macro breakdown is?
Yes. Right now I am at 145 protein, 275 carbs, 55 fat, and 25 fiber. They do your fiber too.
Okay.
Yep. And that will decrease a little bit.
That's probably why she's stronger than us.
Because of the protein?
You eat more protein than me.
It's a lot of protein.
We're going to have to hear some numbers here. Now you got me feeling pretty... Is she really stronger than me, you think?
What are your best lifts?
We can calculate. We can calculate Wilks if you want to talk about Wilks' score
well, I'm
here.
definitely not 125 pounds, so I know that.
My best squat was 292. My best bench in the gym is 185. At a meet, 182. And then deadlifts, and this is a sensitive subject. The heaviest...
I saw this video.
Did you? Yeah, the heaviest I've gotten credit for in a meet was 391. At the Arnold, I locked out 402, but I didn't hang on to it long enough to get the down command, so it did not count, unfortunately.
Saw that.
So maybe deadlift.
And this was at 120 pounds body weight.
Yeah. So another thing, unless you know some of the stuff that's been referenced, you're working with probably one of a handful of people your size on this planet who are stronger than you in brain fart.
Oh, Steffi?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's very strong. And yes, she's my weight class. Yes.
So
super strong, super sweet, very smart.
I mean,
shout out to Steffi.
And I guess that says a lot about, surrounding yourself with, people who are better than you, being able to push you.
Yes. It's that saying, if you're the strongest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Sure. Sure.
You could replace strongest with other things.
So is that part of making the move to, just be around other people? Or
definitely it will be nice to be in a more competitive environment and be a part of a team, like I said. I'm sure that will have no negative effects on my training.
Yeah, for sure.
So with this food thing, do you, it's solely just tracking macros? Like, doesn't matter when you're eating or how much you're eating? As
there
long as you're
is
hitting?
some timing aspects to it. I do get to have additional carbs on my heaviest day of the week. So usually my deadlift day, my most intense day of training. We're trying to time a lot of the proteins and fats after workouts. I need carbs going into workouts. I don't like working out on an empty stomach or I like feeling really full, actually, which is probably the opposite of CrossFit. You guys are moving and bouncing around, whereas I like to feel full and bloated when I go into my workouts.
Really?
Why
do you like that?
Because it helps you lift better.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is across the board, you're thinking, or you?
Me personally, it works well. Yeah, I think I don't know about weightlifting because you're moving a lot more, but yeah.
You feel
I like feeling super
stiff.
full. I like feeling super full on like squat and bench days.
Sure.
If it's a deadlift day, maybe not so much because some of that might be coming up. But which has happened. It's not a pretty sport. But yeah.
Interesting.
So
I like feeling nice and full.
Do they guide your non-training days as well?
Those would be for every day of the week. And then my heavier, like more intense days, I do get the extra carbs. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then you're doing like a half marathon on the day you're not lifting.
Oh, my God. No. I'm in bed not moving, thinking about how much my body hurts.
So you still get really super sore?
Some days my lower body tends to tolerate the volume less well than my upper body. So I can bench pretty heavy, pretty intense 3 times a week. Okay. Squatting, I usually have one higher volume day and then a heavier, more intense day. Deadlifts are high intensity because I only do those once a week.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what things, besides diet, what other types of things are you doing to kind of take care of yourself outside of the gym?
Recovery for me is huge. So I do as much as I can because I have to be able to turn around and perform at my best. So sleep, I like to get at least 9 hours of sleep.
Nice.
If I can get more, I'm taking it. I see a sports massage therapist pretty regularly. She does a lot of like deep tissue active release stuff that works really well for me.
Who is that?
Her name's Lindsay Spencer, and she works out at Summit.
Oh, okay.
She's got a massage office upstairs at
cool.
the gym. Yeah, it's a great setup for her. So besides a lot of sleep and massages, I do cupping, which works well for me. I also have a Mark Pro E-stim machine that I use. So any recovery methods that I can get my hands on, I'm doing it.
Okay, cool. How about mindset stuff? So, like, do you have any practices that you're doing? I mean, on the days that
on the days that I compete, or
that, or even just when you're talking about just some days are heavy and it kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Those days happen. When I'm preparing for a meet, I like to go back and watch videos because I do get, you still get nervous, especially for that first squat, the first attempt.
Put a number on the board.
Yes, exactly. So you want to open, with a number that you can hit any day of the week. And of course I'm nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I think I forgot how to squat, So it helps to go back and watch those videos like, oh no, you actually did 20 more pounds in this last week and look how nice it moved. So I do use those videos to kind of help me mentally and keep me in the right frame of mind. As far as the heavy days in the gym that might not feel so great, they used to bother me a lot when I was newer to the sport. Now I just understand that they happen, and usually there's a reason. And if I can find the reason, then it doesn't bother me less or as much.
Sure.
So if I'm like, oh, I had a shitty bench day. I don't know if I can cuss. Sorry. I had a bad bench day, and I'm texting him, and I'm complaining about it. He's like, well, you were up late. You didn't get a lot of sleep. I'm like, okay, you're right. Or I didn't eat enough the day before. So usually there's a reason. Yeah. If there's not a reason, I don't know. Talk to your coach, look at your program, because something might be off and maybe you shouldn't feel that bad. But yeah, so you really learn to take those bad days with the good for sure. And not every day is going to be perfect. And the sooner you can accept that, the easier it'll be for you. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
Some days it's hard. The last training cycle, like up to the Arnold, I definitely had some bad days and threw a couple fits.
So if we're looking at these clients that you have that come in to you specific for weight loss,
Yeah.
how are they coming to you already pretty well educated, or how are you explaining to them that just doing this strength training, resistance training is better for you than being at Planet Fitness?
Being on a treadmill for a couple hours? Well, those clients that come in for weight loss, I like to keep it super, super fun and kind of always different and always interesting for them. So I've got one gal, and we kind of break the day down by doing a strength aspect and then more of like a HIIT cardio, maybe like a CrossFit style workout after that. It's fun to see them enjoy both parts of it. Usually they like the strength training a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because I mean, who doesn't love cardio? But as I say that, I couldn't even tell you last time I did cardio.
That guy over there.
This guy. But it's cool to explain to them that this is still going to work for you. This strength training is still going to, change your metabolism, change your body composition. You don't need to go do this long, slow, steady state forever and just, stand on a treadmill for 2 hours. Like, that's no fun. So I really have a blast with those clients. It's fun having clients that all have different goals because it keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's awesome. Speaking of goals, what are your goals?
Oh, well, I want to hang on to that 402. I would like to deadlift 402 in July. Beyond that, I want to have over 900-pound total for the year. So either hitting that in July or hitting that at nationals, over 900 pounds. At 57 kilos, I'd be pretty happy with. We're not done, but that's the next step. I want to bench 200 pounds within like the next year. Bench is so slow.
Sure.
You're fighting for like every 5 pounds you can get, and at meets you can only take the 2.5 kilo jumps. So it's not like weightlifting where you can do like a kilo.
Oh, okay.
So it's tough for bench and being a smaller female. But yeah, the next year I would like to bench 200 for sure.
Cool. How about beyond that? Like, do you have any idea of how long you're going to be doing this? Any idea of
as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Some of the best women in the business right now are in their early 40s.
Nice.
The top, 52 kilo, the top 63, they're all in their early 40s. So it's good to see that longevity in the sport.
Yeah.
Because if you train smart and stay injury-free and do things the right way, there really is a lot of longevity and a good future for you in the sport, which is really cool to see.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Beyond like lifting goals, personally, I definitely want to continue to grow my business, get a website up and running, get some training programs that people can download. There's a lot of exciting things coming up.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've got what I marked as bonus material, unless you've got
Bonus material.
more pointed questions to ask.
Well, bonus material. I got to hear about this bonus material. Well, I mean, I just want to, because obviously you're an athlete, but also are a coach, and our show is we're trying to promote this lifestyle, teach people that, right now the United States health is miserable.
Right.
And it's because of our lifestyle. It's not because they haven't found the perfect medication or the perfect surgery or the perfect doctor that you haven't found. We just have to get back to this lifestyle that people have been living for thousands of years.
Sure.
And we want to be involving people, interviewing people that are doing things that are in alignment with that lifestyle. And you're doing that. Strength training, resistance training, and teaching people, somewhat lifestyle coaching. So, I guess I just want to kind of stay with that. Like, if somebody is wanting to, and weight loss is just the easiest thing. But let's say if somebody's even into fitness and they love marathon running or they love whatever. what do you call those things? Triathlons, any type of like endurance type stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how would you kind of bring them over to the side of saying, we need to get you stronger?
Bring them over to the dark side.
Here's why it's
Dark
important
side
for you to be strong.
lifting.
Here's why it's important maybe even for you to learn these movements that I teach.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
I think, it just goes back to making sure that people know the benefits of strength training. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it. You think about the body types and what people think is going to happen to their bodies. So I think there's misconceptions. I think there's fears. People are afraid of heavy weights.
Yeah.
So I think going back and telling them why this is good, what the benefits are, their body composition is going to change, their bones are going to be stronger, the mental benefits, the list just goes on and on. So I think really getting people more comfortable with the idea and getting rid of those misconceptions would be where to start. I think CrossFit's actually done a great job of that, getting people more comfortable with a barbell. I think, for the general community, it's done amazing things just getting a barbell into people's hands.
Yeah.
So for any endurance athlete, that's great. They probably got really healthy heart and lungs and all those things, but strength training is important as well. So I think just explaining the benefits and getting rid of those fears and misconceptions is key.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe how many people have come into my office, and like one of the main reasons they've come to me as their chiropractor is because either their other previous chiropractor or their medical doctors told them that you shouldn't be lifting weights because you're going to get injured.
Right.
So
the fact that even doctors are saying that, I mean, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
It's very scary. But then to actually look at, like you were just saying, look at some of the strongest people in the world are doing this and being very, very competitive well into their 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool to see that longevity with it. It's like I said, is if you're doing it the right way, and ideally staying injury free, and hopefully have a good coach that's keeping you on the right path, you can do this your whole life. And that's one of my favorite parts of meets that you go to. You see like the masters division, and you see these ladies that are 60, 70, 80, and men lifting like in that age range. It's so cool, and the crowd just gets so hyped up for these people.
Sure.
And it's great to see that support. And we've got a couple older folks in our gym, and people get probably more excited for them, doing their PRs, and it's great to see that support. And I wish we had more of that, more of that crowd, more of that clientele. But yeah, it's really inspiring to see them doing that. And you're just like, yep, when I'm 70, I want to be competing still.
Sure.
When you started off your comment there and you said, if you look, I thought you were going to say, if you look at those.
Also,
right.
I had who did I have? She had like arthritis, and she was lifting with me, and she was feeling good, great. And then she was gone for a couple. She was gone for a couple weeks, okay, and then her arthritis like symptoms started coming back, whatever. And then she's like, well, I don't know if I feel good enough to lift, and ended up going to the doctor. And the doctor's like, what? You're lifting? And she had been feeling so good, and I'm just like, yes, you need to keep moving. You need to keep moving those joints. And she was like, but he's a doctor. I'm like, I know, I know, but
sometimes that's the problem.
Well, that was a question on our gym's member page a few weeks ago. Somebody was asking about what can I do naturally for arthritis, and there were some people saying some good supplements and the glucosamines and all that stuff. And so I was like, the best thing is movement for arthritis.
Yes.
Is you want to move your joints as much as you can, and you want to move them properly.
Otherwise, they're just going to lock right up.
Yeah, if you're not moving them, then when you try to move them, you're going to inflame them, and that's what arthritis is. It's inflammation of your joints. And if you're not moving them properly, and you are moving often, then that's going to inflame your joints.
Right.
So and again, back to the resistance training, specifically powerlifting, and why it's crazy that these doctors would say that is, you are bending over and picking something up. That's an everyday thing.
Functional.
You are squatting. That's an everyday thing. You are pushing something. That's an everyday thing. It's, as you just said, functional. So, I mean, again, that same doctor wouldn't say, don't bend over and pick something up. Don't squat. Don't sit down in a chair and then get back up. That's never would they say that.
Right.
Well, when you're doing it with actually resistance training, you are training your body to do that stuff better.
Yeah, the transfer to daily living our activities of daily living is just huge.
Right. If you learn how to pick up even 100 pounds off the ground, your likelihood of hurting yourself picking up a 20-pound grandchild significantly is going to decrease.
Right. One of my clients, she was in her 60s, and that was one of her main goals when she came into me. She wanted to be able to carry her around her grandbabies and be strong enough to do it and not get winded and things like that. And she was one of my clients that we started out very basic, like, okay, today we're going to work on sitting down on this bench and standing up, and then that like slowly progressing to a squat. And, but yeah, so those are so important. And I think as athletes, you can sometimes lose sight of just those everyday goals that people have. Whereas my goals are so focused on the bar. These people just want to be able to get up a flight of stairs. You know what I mean? Something like that. So it's cool to have people with all different goals and all different, being at all different places in their lives. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, and you focusing on picking up the barbell and that barbell being as heavy as possible that's going to push out the amount of time where you're going to have to, the goal of just bending over and picking something up or go walking up a stair. That's going to happen when you're 90 instead of 60 for other people, because you're focusing on picking up something heavy now. You're doing it the right way. You're building muscle. You're learning how to fight through something that's stressful. There's all these benefits to what you're doing that can just, like you said, transfer over to on a daily basis, functionality of just daily activities, but also just promoting long-term health. I mean, muscle is just they call it the organ of longevity. You're going to live longer the more muscle you have. You're not going to just be wasting away that many people unfortunately are in the United States.
That's not what you want to see.
Yeah, so part of the foundational material of what CrossFit is this graph that they call the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum, and how basically working towards fitness is building this hedge against not only just hurting yourself from walking up a flight of stairs or whatever, but just building a hedge against disease and all sickness. And I used to have a little bit of a problem with it, honestly, the fact that they put fitness up like beyond wellness, but it's like, it's what you're just saying. If like muscle is this marker of longevity, like, yeah, you can be very well, very healthy, but if you're not strong enough to do things as your body's getting old, as you're aging, like you're going to age, fact, muscle is one of the things, fitness is one of the things that's going to be working against that, regardless of, how well your organs are functioning.
Yep, it's just the next level.
So we did last week. We did our show on type 2 diabetes, and I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about some research that shows that insulin resistance, which is the kind of precursor to type 2 diabetes, which is insulin resistance, is the #1 health problem across the world right now. And you are insulin resistant 10 years before you actually get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So for 10 years, you're having this problem that's not identified, and then you get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. But they say that insulin resistance starts in your quadricep muscles.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Okay.
So if you don't have quadricep muscles, you're more likely to be insulin resistant, which means you're more likely to not only have type 2 diabetes, but insulin resistant leads to every other degenerative disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, obviously heart disease.
Huh, that's interesting.
So the more muscle you have there, and it makes sense, obviously these are the biggest muscles that we have in our body, so the more muscle you have there, the more kind of sinks that we have for glucose to go into and be used as energy. So your insulin levels are going to be low, and it's not going to lead to insulin resistance.
Do your front squats, people.
Do your front squats, right? I mean,
He'll be okay.
not only is that going to, save your knees and your joints and
Yes.
everything else, it's also going to help you prevent all the degenerative diseases that are out there. All you got to do is squat.
All you have
That's
to do is
phenomenal.
squat. That's it. Just
That's
squat and
phenomenal.
deadlift, and you'll be just fine.
And like you said, that could start as bending over or sitting down on a chair. That could start as air squats. You don't have to squat 400, or what'd you say? 300 pounds? 295, 292?
Ish, yeah.
Ish. I mean, that'd
Yeah.
be great if everybody could do that. But
Yes, exactly. Everyone's goals are different.
yeah.
Yeah, that's. I love it. Love it. Okay.
So what's the bonus material?
Lightning round here. First one. Were you a vegan for a while?
No, I was vegetarian for a
okay.
couple of years.
Okay, I scrolled way back in
Yeah,
Instagram to.
you really did. No, not vegan, just vegetarian.
Okay, and that not anymore.
Not anymore. Nope, I do eat meat.
Why did you do it? Why aren't you doing it anymore?
I started it initially because I was curious
Mhm.
about how my body would react. I never had been like a really big meat eater to begin with.
Okay.
So I was really just curious, one, to see what would happen to my body, two, to see if I could do it and
Sure.
stick with it.
Was this pre-powerlifting?
It would have been in like the first year.
Okay, so you were lifting heavy and
Yeah.
eating veggies.
Yeah. Yes.
What was the question?
Was I vegan?
Oh.
And I was not. I was just vegetarian.
Vegetarian.
It would be really hard for me to not have like eggs and cheese
Okay.
and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Still are?
No.
Oh.
No, I eat meat. Why did I go back? Was that the other part of the question?
Yeah.
Because being a vegetarian sucks.
Well, I'll tell you. Actually, guys, I was in Florida.
You're a vegetarian.
And no, definitely not. I was in
You
Florida.
just looked at me like that.
And he's like,
When you
"You're."
just said that.
I was in Florida, and we were at this amazing sushi place, and I didn't want to miss out on having sushi. That's a shitty answer,
Nice.
but
That's what.
but
got
that's
you back
what
in.
got me back into it. I was like, oh, this is really good. And to be honest, the two things that I missed the most were salmon and bacon.
Those are
So
those are two
and
good. Yeah.
they're
What
good
about
things,
bacon
right?
wrapped salmon? Would you do that?
I would probably do that. Why not? Anything is good wrapped in bacon.
I agree.
This guy over here is contemplating becoming a 100% carnivore. So
Oh yeah, 100%.
Might try it. I don't know how long I could do it.
So like that's it. Just meat,
Not just meat,
all meat
but
diet.
eggs. I can eat eggs.
but like no veggies.
No veggies.
All protein and fat.
All protein and
That's
fat.
like, whoops, that's like next level keto.
Next level.
Next
a lot of protein.
next level. Yeah.
It's a ton of protein. Okay, maybe kind of similarly on that. Again, I was digging hard for this. I saw that your mom had is a gardener.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So did
yes.
you grow up with like
That's really
backyard
funny that you saw
veggies,
that.
or?
Yes, I did. So my mom just got Instagram, and she was just Googling me to just creep on my lifting, right?
Mhm.
So because she would just be like, "Oh, saw what you did today." I'm like, "Mom, just get an Instagram, you know." And so she did, and she didn't post anything for a long time. And her first post was the asparagus growing in the backyard. And yeah, it's a huge, amazing asparagus patch, and we're gonna have to get some because it's fresh and way better than the stuff you get in the store. So yes, growing up, yeah, we had asparagus, rhubarb, strawberries, carrots, yeah, lots of things. Yeah.
So would you say you grew up a little different than maybe a conventional standard American diet?
Maybe slightly. I mean, we lived in the country, so we had the space and the opportunity to grow food, and we had apple trees, cherry trees. So yeah, probably a little different.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Covered that. Okay. That's not what that's what I saw. There you go.
Oh, my water bottle.
Yeah, Matt Vincent.
Yes.
So are you? Tell me about that relationship.
I am a sponsored athlete with
Okay.
Hate Brands, owned by Matt Vincent. He's
Hate
a
spelled
good,
HVIII.
yes. He's a good friend of mine. He takes really good care of his athletes and dresses me most of the time. And yeah, that's one of their slogans. So free advertising for hate.
Cool. Sweet. Any?
I got nothing.
Cool. Do your squats. Oh, wait a minute. I do have one more.
Do your squats.
Your squat's super narrow.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I am
So is this guy's.
not so good at anything wide.
Okay.
If it's outside my hips, you probably noticed my deadlift.
Yeah, your
is
deadlift's narrow,
super
but
narrow
that's
also.
more common.
But yeah, my squat is about here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm strongest.
Do you think that's?
If I get outside of my hips, it's very uncomfortable for me.
Do you think that has come from like bodybuilding before powerlifting, or?
There's a chance of it.
Some of that.
I honestly was never comfortable with anything super wide. And a lot of powerlifters you do see wide.
Right.
But it also depends, are they geared, are they in suits, are they in wraps?
And
you know what I mean? That changes the lift entirely.
Everything you're doing is raw.
Everything I do is raw, yep.
Cool.
So I just do knee sleeves.
Cool.
That is raw. But yeah, it's just where I'm strongest.
Cool. Very cool. Sweet. Well, that's a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was starting to say,
Awesome.
do your squats, folks. Pick up heavy things.
Yes.
Press heavy things. Yeah. Great. Thank
Follow
you.
her for motivation.
Yeah. What's your?
You can find me on Instagram at Bonschro, BONSCHRO.
Cool. Any other of your sponsors you'd like to throw out there?
Well, we can thank Matt Vincent for the water bottle, pants, and hat. So go check out Hate Brands.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yes.
Cool dude. Sweet. If you didn't know, she's definitely the most Insta-famous person you've probably ever talked to. So
Sweet.
You're just blessed with my presence.
yeah, there you go. Cool. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Thanks for doing it.
There we go.
Were we live the whole time?
You bet. It's out there.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I guess I should see if anybody asked anything. No, we got lots of people joining in. I can't see any questions. We're gonna end it.